The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the Association for Software Testing, its management, sponsors, or staff.
Bring in our first guest, which is Karen Johnson. Welcome, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. This is the first time I've ever been so grateful for such an easy to pronounce name.
Well, I didn't throw the middle initial in there, the N, right? I gotta have that.
Have to have the N.
You'll never find you, right?
That's right. That's my whole affair. Nobody will know me. Karen Johnson. Too generic.
Too generic. Google search, fail, right?
Right.
Gotta have the N. Fair enough.
Have to have the N.
So, consultant, teacher, instructor, what else? What am I missing?
Oh, my mom.
Yes, that's a very important one.
Right. I do lots of things.
So, conference so far, what's your take?
Oh my gosh, what a crazy busy day. It's been really, really busy. So, let's see. So, I had something that I really wanted to talk to you about tonight, and then something else happened today. This is the way conferences go, like big shock, right? Something else happened. Something else happened this morning that was really important that I think I should probably spend a minute on as well.
Right, because originally we were going to cover your talk.
Right.
That was the original
That
plan.
was
That's
the
what we
plan.
talked about. And then you came up to me and said, hey, you know what? I really got something on my mind. Can we cover that instead? And I said, absolutely. This is your
This is the forum for that.
That's right.
Well, actually, you told me I had 15 minutes.
There's that. There's a little bit of a time limit.
So I've decided that I want to cover 3 topics, which is great. So you can time box me at 5 minutes, so I get 3 5-minute rants.
All right, I'm getting out my timer right
Fair enough.
now.
Okay,
Timer's
timer.
going.
All right. Time. Wow. Yes. It's live.
There it
And by the way,
It really is.
there's a reception going on in the background. So
Oh,
that
and the
hence-
bars at
and
the
the
other
bar,
end.
the bar is wide open right now.
The room, right. Which, this is keeping me from that, right?
Right. Karen's going to run for the bar as soon as we're done here.
Probably. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I really wanted to talk about is, even though I clearly enjoy conferences and speak at lots of them, there's something about that I want to talk about that I just don't think is being discussed in the community. And that is, it's a wonderful thing to speak at a conference, right? It sort of makes you back at home, collect your thoughts, get it together, have all the joy of PowerPoints, abstract deadlines, dealing with the
That's right.
conference manager, all the pre-scene stuff that people don't see and don't think about until the day you show up and magically it all hangs together. And that's good stuff. I mean, it's good to make you really sit and think about what your thoughts are on something. I like that part. What I'm really not enjoying, and I'm watching it become more and more of a thing, is sort of what I call, and I think you tagged it because you and I chatted about this one night recently in Skype, and I'm gonna attribute this one to you as sort of the celebrity tester. So I think we've become sort of a celebrity-focused world, right? We're keeping up with the Kardashians and whoever else we're keeping up with. And I think a similar thing is actually happening in the testing community. And while there may be a fun part of that, I think there's a real detriment to that. So first of all, a celebrity tester to me is somebody who speaks at conferences regularly. Yikes, that's me. So here we go.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's trying to keep up with me on a regular basis. I don't recommend it. But there's a downside to that. So for everybody who speaks at a conference on a regular basis, inevitably you're going to get better at speaking. Inevitably you're probably going to be speaking in front of bigger and bigger and bigger rooms until you get to, like right now for me, I think about 1,200 people is the largest group I've ever spoken in front of, which is a pretty big, whomping size room, right? It's not the same as 20 people. And so once you get put in front of that many people, you have to become a little larger than life.
Oh, yeah.
A little, people have to hear you. You've got to be able to own the room. You've got to be high energy. You've got to be all these things. And that's great. It's great to be at a conference. It's fun. They're interesting talks. Sometimes you're writing notes going like, wow, I hadn't thought of that. Those are the good ones. But the downside to that is we are actually in a profession that's a very thoughtful, intellectual process. It's a quiet kind of job.
Sure.
And so a lot of software testers are actually pretty quiet people, generally introverts, hunkering over a computer most of the time, deep in thought, trying to find serious issues and making it better and making software better. And every time we have sort of a celebrity speaker speak at a conference, for that quiet, new to the field, oh my gosh, I can't even speak in front of 20, let alone 1,200, we're making it harder for them. We're making it harder for new people coming into the field to share experiences. And even people who've just been around for a long time and working really cool things, but they don't see themselves as a speaker. Right? I'm not a speaker, I just work in the field.
I just do stuff every day. I go into work, I do my thing, and I go home.
Right. And it makes it really hard. And I think that's really frustrating. I think back to like 1997, 98, when I met James Bach and Ken Kaner, who helped me a lot and said, hey kid, you know, you have some interesting stories. You should speak. And my first reaction was like, oh, yeah, no, I don't. I can't
Oh,
do
the
that.
horror.
No, I don't think so. Maybe write an article silently in the back. But we're making it harder. And now we have this new thing that we've added to it, which is Twitter, which I have a love, not so sure about thing with Twitter. I love being connected to the community.
Yeah.
I get a lot of interesting tips on things. I hear about articles I wouldn't have found. It highlights things for me. It connects me to people. One time I had a serious testing challenge, like a real problem with some work, and I sent a tweet out like looking for help on XYZ. And in 15 minutes, I had people from literally around the world saying, hey, Karen, here's something for you. In fact, I met somebody today who said, do you remember that time? And I was like, yes, thank you. So
now I'm going to have to get on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Dee's not on Twitter, so she has no idea.
But there's a bad thing to it, too, which is I think it's almost like people are looking for a little bit of fame. And they're on Twitter, and they're on there all day, and I'm scratching my head thinking, are you still doing thoughtful, intellectual work? Because you're tweeting every 15 minutes, so I don't know how deeply engrossed in what you're doing you are, because you're too busy kind of doing that. And I'm not saying there's not a value in Twitter, but when I bill a client by the hour to do work, I'm not on Twitter.
Right.
And I think we're feeding into it. We're getting all really whipped up.
But isn't that really a downfall of social media and not necessarily something about our industry?
True. So there's a responsibility factor that lies on everybody for how you handle it. I mean, I tweet even when I have client work, so you have to figure out where you are fitting that in, and that's a responsibility thing. And maybe that's just an offshoot of the celebrity tester thing.
Okay.
I think when it comes to the conference space, the biggest problem there is it's making it hard for other people to step forward, share their experiences, do a presentation.
But is it the celebrity that's the issue at hand, or is it the fact that testers as a general group are just timid? I mean, if you take someone who's a celebrity tester and they've gotten there because they have good ideas and they speak well, and for whatever reason, is the onus on them as a celebrity tester? Is the issue at hand that people are willing to follow them? Or is the issue that we as testers and as an industry are just too timid with our ideas?
I don't know. I guess that's a way I hadn't really thought about it before. And certainly in every profession, some people choose to speak in their profession, and some people are in it, have fantastic careers and never speak at a conference, and from start to finish never do. And I'm not saying everybody has to speak at a conference, but what I want to make sure is for every celebrity who takes up time speaking at a conference, that's a slot. It's a time slot that somebody else is maybe not having an opportunity to stand up and speak. And I know certainly I'm sure we saw it today, where 4 sessions are going on. You've got to choose your session, and everybody goes running into the famous person's session, and there's 3 other people who maybe are not really being listened to. And I just think that that's a problem. And I think that the longer you're in the field, the longer you speak at conferences, the more you get known as a speaker, somewhere along the way you almost have, I don't know if it's an obligation, but an interest in helping the next person come along and speak as well, right? Share the floor.
Exactly. Are you advocating more of a mentorship role on behalf, that these celebrity testers now turn over their powers and mentor people, or just bow out and say, you know what, I've had my piece. I'm not going to speak so much anymore to give other people a chance. Like, I'm not sure what I think you're proposing that we do about the problem. Do you have?
I think we mentor people. So I know twice today I had people say to me, oh, I don't know if I can speak. I had one person who said, I'm committed to something in the fall and I'm really anxious about it. And I said, let me help you. Right? If you would like my help, I'd be happy to help you. So I think we can do what we can do. I also think that we're in a profession where we're supposed to be people who are skeptical of things. So we get software, we expect it's going to break, we look for the flaws, we wedge our way in, we break it, we crack it down.
But are we questioning our celebrities?
We don't question our celebrity speakers. We get to a place where, oh my gosh, they said this, so that must be true. And I think it's interesting that a speaker will be talking about, you should be a skeptic. You should be discerning issues. You should
all
be
like, uh-huh.
Yeah, oh wow. Oh my gosh, everything you're saying is right. It's like, do you see the irony in this? So I'm concerned about that.
Sure. And do you think that there's a certain amount of responsibility on the part of conference organizers to kind of watch for those sorts of things? Now, this conference is a conference done by testers, right? So one of the things that I know that I've spoken about this conference, and it's something that we stress, which is we want to hear new voices. We want to get more faces out there. You know, a tester might not be a dynamic speaker, but their content may be fantastic. And I would much rather have a non-dynamic speaker and fantastic content than maybe the other way around. So, you know, is there something that, in your mind, is there something that we should be doing maybe as testers to kind of shepherd along a new era in testing conferences? And maybe there's some criticism of this conference that you might have where we could improve on that. We could improve the culture of it. Anything in that area?
Yeah, I do. So one comment. So how many times have you been at home, gotten a flyer in the mail for a conference, flipped through it, you know, it's been a long day, you flip through it, you see the pictures, and you're like, yeah, pretty much same regular group. So as soon as you see that, there's a problem. And that's true of a lot of conferences. So to be fair to conference managers, they do it in part because some names are a draw.
Oh yeah.
And they're gonna get people who are gonna come for that. So how do we balance that? So one possibility would be instead of sessions that are carved out as lightning talks, rapid talks where, you know, we go through, I'll make up a number, 10 people and they each get 5 minutes and there's your hour, which is very stressful, by the way. Even as a regular speaker, we just blew our time box, right? So it's very hard to time box something. That's not very conducive. It sounds like it's conducive for a new speaker, like, hey, it's only 5 minutes.
Right, non-committal.
How bad could that be? 5 minutes, you know? I mean, if nothing else, we'll yank you down. You'll be all right. But it's actually hard to talk intelligently about anything with any real, like, wow, at least one takeaway in a 5-minute slot. What I think would be helpful would be to take at least one session, or maybe it's 2 back-to-back, and have speakers have like 20-minute sessions.
We actually did that one year.
Emerging topics.
We did it. We did emerging topics one year. They were 20 minutes. They were low prep. We did it 2 years in a row. The first year it was amazing. The second year was a little more challenging to get people to do it. And I think overall it worked well as a format. But what I kind of noticed is people didn't prepare as much. Right? They treated it more like an extended lightning talk. So maybe 20 minutes isn't the right number. Maybe it's 30. You know, where's that tipping point?
I've got another idea. So
Okay.
instead of 20 minutes and it's kind of a quick and dirty presentation, can you only imagine if it was set up like a Barbara Walters interview, right?
Okay.
Where it's 2 people, they're sitting at a table, it's somebody who's not spoken before, but they have cool experiences and like, you know it. You know they do. We had a couple of those here. And you interview them. Prompt them through it. Prompt them through it. Help them be that interesting speaker. Make
Right.
sure that they get their story told. They haven't done an experience report. Help them get it out. And don't worry about the slides. I mean, just even as a longtime speaker, I will say the minute you have to get up on one of these large platforms with a giant PowerPoint behind your head and someone attaches a headset to you. I had one where the thing was dangling over and I felt the whole time like there was a bug there and I was swatting at it and it's really distracting. Like you're not calm, you're not talking one-on-one to somebody, it's really distracting. And then you're trying to summarize a project or a problem and how you approached it to share it with other people in a way that would be interesting. So I think finding the right stories and finding someone or ones, maybe it's a couple of people, I don't know what it looks like, interviewing in a way that helps to prod it along to be just less stressful. And like, let them sit down. Don't put them up on a giant stage. That's scary. One of the smartest things I think I ever did once at a conference, they put me up on a giant stage, and I looked out at the audience, and everyone's waiting for me to start, and I was like, this is just not me. I don't want to be up here telling you all what to do. So I asked somebody in the audience, can you go down the hall where I knew there was some bar stools and grab me a bar stool? And then I got off the platform, and I walked down the middle of the aisle, and I sat in a bar stool. And I said, we're going to ignore the giant PowerPoint. I'm just going to sit here and talk. That's it. I'm just going to talk.
So maybe it's a restructuring. Maybe the era of longer and longer sessions is coming to an end, and maybe we need to go a different direction. Maybe it's shorter sessions. Maybe it's pre-recorded sessions. I don't know.
How about both?
Yeah.
Do a long and let it be with people who can deal with a long session. I did a double today. It's a lot. It's a workout, right?
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. And then do shorts for people who are not used to it. And for people who are doing longs, they're going to need some of that drama, right? Because you can't hold a group for an hour and a half just, and then do small-scale productions where it's just simple, it's soft, it's quiet.
Right. Well, you've got some support. So we've got a tweet from Neil, and he says, I agree with Karen Johns' points, but I see excellent conferring happening behind her right now, and that gives me hope. And he's right. A lot of what makes this conference, and there's a couple others that are like this, is kind of the stuff that goes on in the hallways and stuff that goes on at tables. But it would be nice to share those conversations more publicly.
Right.
And so, maybe this is a new thing, and maybe this is a challenge that I would say this is probably a challenge that you're putting out, and I would get behind it too and say, do we need to change this? How do we get more stories out? Because I think there are plenty of stories hiding in offices all over the world that aren't making it out either because the person can't travel, or they don't have the time off, or they don't feel comfortable speaking in front of people. And those are just lost stories. Those are things that we can't learn from.
Another lost one is this implication that as a speaker you figured it out.
Oh, right, that you solved it.
You solved it. What's wrong with coming in and saying, you know what, I'm working on an awesome project. It looks a little like this. I can't tell you all the particulars because there's confidentiality. And you know what? We're stuck.
Yeah. That would be awesome. And leave it open and let kind of the community dive into it and provide feedback.
Can you only imagine the number of consultants in the room killing themselves
That's
to
right.
give advice?
God. Wait. I've got an idea.
Oh, wait. I'm one of those too. Oh, shoot. All right.
Well, I think that's our time. Thank you for bringing this up. I think this is an important topic.
I missed my other topics, though.
That's all right. It's okay.
Next time.
We'll
Cover
catch you
one
next
well.
time. You know what? We'll try to find a way that we can keep this going. How's that sound? All right. To be continued.
Okay.
The constraints of broadcast.
All right,
Well,
thanks.
thank you, Karen. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben, indeed.
All right.